Today on the First Time Storytelling broadcast, my guest is Dave Chan. Dave is a screenwriter based in Brooklyn, New York, who graduated with a forensic science degree and once worked in a financial industry until he realized there was more life in a morgue. Very interesting. Very interesting there, Dave. All right, so Dave is here to share the story of how he first discovered his passion for screenwriting. Welcome to the broadcast.
Oh, thank you so much, Anne. So happy to be here.
Very happy to have you. Now, you didn't mention your story is tied to 9/11. Today is 9/11. So it is a day of remembrance. We should never forget. And I think you're gonna take us into that day. So if you're listening and talking about 9/11 has certain triggers for you, just please be aware that Dave's story is gonna take us back to that day. So let's do this, Dave. So how did you discover that screenwriting, that you had a passion for screenwriting?
Yeah, I would like to back up a bit to that day on 9/11, 2001, before I dive into screenwriting, because it did have a very significant impact on me. I remember it was a Tuesday morning, 8:45 a.m. I was coming out of the Cortlandt Street train station. And back then, it was pretty much underneath the towers. And I was going to work, and I was going through the revolving doors to exit onto the street. So when I was going into the revolving doors, not before I even came out, huge explosion, like rumble, like boom, the whole place shook, the walls shook. It felt like the floor shook. And I'm like, what is this? And as I came out of the revolving door, there would just be tons of just garbage and paper just falling down from the sky. And there was an overhang, so I couldn't look up at that moment to see what was going on. And I just instinctively, I thought, I'm going back in. I don't know what's going to be falling. I don't know what that was. I go back in, and for those who lived in New York at that time, there was a Barnes and Noble underneath the Twin Towers, at the base of the Twin Towers at that time. And I went inside, and security was like, go out this exit instead. Everybody out, everybody go. It was just pure chaos. So I finally get out on the street. People were screaming, people were crying, and it's just pure pandemonium. I look up, and I see this huge gaping hole on the side of the North Tower, Twin Towers. And I don't know, I would say it probably spanned at least a couple of floors. And at first I thought it was, okay, maybe it was a gas explosion. That's plausible. When I saw that damage, that was no gas explosion, right? Then your mind starts to wander. So I'm just trying to fight through this crowd. I was going to work, but at that moment I was thinking, where should I go? I specifically remember a cop in uniform, one of the white shirts, so he was either a lieutenant or a captain, and he was fighting through the crowds to get into the building to help people, And when I finally got to my work address, it was just only like a block or two away. I thought, I'm going to go in because I don't feel too safe right now on the streets. I'm going to go in, I'm going to regroup with my coworkers, and we're going to formulate a plan. And also to figure out what just happened, So I go into work, and everyone's scrambling at work, So I worked in IT at that time. And normally IT, you have a lot of scrambling already to, put out figurative fires.
Yeah.
So this was extra chaotic. And we had the news on, I was just trying to figure out what happened. And then the news said, oh, there was a plane hit the building. And we didn't evacuate yet. I think we were all a little shell shocked. Like, how could this happen? Um, and I would say I'm leaving out certain parts, but just to cut towards the end of the story, about maybe, I don't know, 30 minutes later, we hear a rumbling. It sounded like an earthquake, and that lasted probably 10 seconds, just this rumbling. And we're like, what is that? And we go to the window. We had a direct line of sight to the Twin Towers. We were separated by the buildings. And we just see this huge plume of smoke coming up the street. And that was when the first tower dropped. And, our management, we were finally like, okay, everybody out. We are leaving, So I'm walking up Greenwich Street in the Tribeca area going north. And probably 10 blocks away. And I see people turn around, point, and scream some more. And that's when the second tower was falling. And I actually saw that as it was falling. And just to wrap this portion up, extremely traumatic, probably the worst day of my life, and for a lot of people. I guess that week, a lot of questions were going through my head. I mean, I didn't love my job, the stuff that I was doing. I liked it. It was a paycheck, I didn't have a passion for anything, so I was filled with all these existential thoughts, Then I started talking to a designer friend of mine. He's very creative. He's not a writer or filmmaker, but we were just talking about life. You know what, man, life is short. You got to do something you love. And it was him. His name's Sid. He actually said, you know what? Wouldn't it be cool to make a short film? Wouldn't that be fun? And I'm like, yeah, that would be a lot of fun. That'd be great. How do you do that? So I had no idea. So I went to bookstores and I looked up how to make a film. And I got back to him. I said, hey, I read some books and there's something called a script that you need before making a film. But how do you write one? How does that work? And did some more digging, some more research, read a bunch of books. And one morning, I was awake in bed and I was just staring at the ceiling. And for some reason, I had the ending of this short story in mind. And nothing else, just the ending. And I was like, wow, okay, that sounds really cool. But you know what? I got to start writing this because I don't want this to, I have a terrible memory, just to let you know. And I'm like, I can't let this go. So I jumped out of bed and I was just typing on my computer for hours and hours and hours. I didn't eat. I didn't go to the bathroom, just hours, just writing. And I lost track of time. And that was my very first short screenplay. I mean, I had very rudimentary knowledge of format, structure, character, story, but I didn't care. It's like, this is a cool story. I think I'm going to reverse engineer it from the ending and let's just see where it goes, And that was my very first short script, and it's called Rat. And it's a dark comedy / thriller / Twilight Zone-esque. Almost the ending was kind of an homage to The Shining. I think that's where I subconsciously pulled it. But yeah, I was very happy with it. It probably sucked, but I was very happy that I finished it. Very satisfied.
So were you still fully employed at the same company, or when you decided,
Yeah.
okay, there's got to be more than life than this, did you quit, or you stayed there and you just started pursuing what more there could be for you?
Oh, I stayed there for a while. I stayed there for a long time, but I had a really nice schedule where I worked 3 days
Yeah.
and then I was off. Yeah, I was off 4. And yeah, so I used that to my advantage. And
Awesome. So
yeah,
then so did you have, because you sound like you did a lot of research, but had you ever written anything before? Like, was writing a thing for you, or this
yeah.
was completely new?
Oh, that's so funny you asked that because just to preface it again, I'm going to be speaking with someone about my writing and my history. And as a joke, I was going to bring in probably like the first poem I ever wrote, like in 8th grade, right? Which is also terrible. But um, I never sat down and wrote like that moment. I was never committed like that moment.
Mm.
And I mean, in 5th grade, I actually came in 3rd place for an essay contest on how to make your city safe. And that was sponsored by the NYPD back then. And then 8th grade, I think I won 2nd place in my school for the poetry contest. And I do remember for one day, I had started typing jokes, and I was probably 12. I'll say I was 12. And for, I don't know, absolutely no reasons. Like, you know what? I want to start typing jokes, try to be funny. And then I stopped. I don't know why I stopped. I don't know why I started. I don't know why I stopped. But yeah, it's really funny. Something as horrific and as powerful as 9/11, you know, sometimes you can find this sliver of positive something,
Yeah.
you know,
Well, I
that
don't
can
think
help you
something like
through.
that. Yeah, I don't think something like that can happen without having impact.
Yeah.
And ideally, it's a change in a positive direction. But
Yeah.
obviously for a lot of people, that probably it's a choice of outlet of what you want to
Yeah.
discover, and go deep into yourself and find out what is what is the meaning of life.
Absolutely.
Because
Yeah.
that no one had ever expected anything like that to happen.
Right.
And even right now with the pandemic, no one, well, not no one, there were people
Yeah.
that predicted this would happen and we should be better prepared for it. But the average person,
Nostradamus.
yeah, the average person doesn't think about those things. No one thought 2020 would become what it is. And it
Yeah.
has been an opportunity for everyone to say, oh, what is my life about? What do I want it to be about?
Yeah.
Because there's just no guarantees of what tomorrow is going to be like. And
Absolutely.
we shouldn't we shouldn't live it in misery. Life is really meant to be enjoyed. It's going to challenge you, and it's going to push you, and you should be learning, and you should be constantly growing, but you should be enjoying all of those
Mm-hmm.
processes and where they lead you. So where has that then led you, that
Yeah.
first script, and since then what has happened?
Yeah. For the longest time, I only considered writing as a hobby. And I never went full gusto, you know, with it until years down the road. Because it was just something fun to do, and I wasn't really that serious with it, but I loved it. So it was just work to me was just a way to kill time in between my creative endeavors, and a paycheck. So, um, eventually I discovered that with screenwriters in particular, um, and you really can't say this for poets or novelists or even TV writers. Um, Screenwriters have a little less control
Mm.
over the project, you know. So once you turn it over to producers or filmmakers, if it's in an official capacity, like you sell it, well, then you're selling your rights, you know, to that script. So you don't own those rights anymore. You have no say legally, right? Um, but and I thought to myself, that's no fun, you know. I think I want to try to gain a little control on the output, on the final product of this. So I started producing, and
So that was
so
another learning curve. That was another,
oh yeah,
okay, yeah, let
yeah.
me.
Oh yeah. So like you mentioned up top, I had a forensic science degree, you know, and I worked, you know, in corporate America. I didn't have a film degree like a lot of my peers. Um, so it was all uh, it was OJT, on the job training. So which is a fabulous way to learn, you know. So because you're put through the ringer. So I've worked on short films. Um,
Your own
and
scripts, somebody else's scripts, other
so
projects.
yeah, so it would be for the most part they're co-written scripts and also other people's projects. Um, I haven't produced Rat yet. Actually, I was thinking of it as an animation. So I was talking to an animator slash illustrator about doing this. So that hasn't really, you know, come to fruition yet, because there's the whole fundraising process, which I don't need to
Yeah.
get into. That's another podcast. It's another discussion. But yeah, so out of writing, you know, came this love for, you know, filmmaking and telling stories. Right? It's just another avenue of telling stories. And you know, I grew up on TV more than films, and I love both, but I just gravitated to TV more because TV was free, you know. And I came home from school, sat in front of the television, turned it on, and watched all my favorite comedies and stuff. And I loved comedies. So you were talking about 2020 being another significant year in human history, and I actually had COVID this year,
Oh.
March and April. Yeah, it was. I mean, my friends had it also, but very minor symptoms. I mean, one guy didn't even have a fever. He just lost sense of taste and smell for like a week, and that was it. And it was fine. For me, though, I was hospitalized. I had about 104, almost a 105 fever. I had pneumonia, shortness of breath, um, and I have a history of asthma. So taking a step, like every step was like having a constant asthma attack. It was really scary, and I don't wish it on anybody. It was pretty bad news. So again, coming back to the theme of life is short. You know, do something you love, find that meaning, that purpose. You know, that gives you joy and fulfillment and bliss. And so basically, I started an MFA program, a Master of Fine Arts program at Stony Brook University here in New York. And I'll be getting an MFA in TV writing. So I'm extremely excited about that. It's a lot of fun. I'm learning a lot. And, you know, I would love to be in the TV industry. I would also love to teach. You know, that would give me bliss and to share my knowledge. So
Wow. Your life has been a great journey. There's definitely been some bumps in there, and thank God you pulled through,
yeah,
you know, your battle with COVID. And I know, again, New York definitely went through
yeah,
some serious changes and impact this year in 2020. So you're kind of in the epicenter where a lot of things are happening and taking place, and, you know, shifting and changing. And it seems like, you know, but you're at that you adopt that in your life, like just even your background, because, you know, science forensic, you ended up in the financial industry, you ended up in the IT field, shifting over to screenwriting,
Right.
producing. And I love that, because that's what life is about.
Yeah.
Exploring, like, okay, I'm going to
Totally.
learn this. It's not what I thought it was going to be. I'm going to shift over to
Yeah.
that. And so many people think, no, you know, I spent the money, I spent the time, I have to stick with it.
Right.
Life's
No.
too short.
Life's too short.
To
It helps
stick.
if you have ADD. I'm just kidding.
Well, I mean, I feel like I've lived multiple lifetimes, right? Because it's just,
Yeah.
especially as you get a little higher up in age. So I turned
Yeah.
43 on Monday, and you
Oh,
know, it is.
happy birthday.
Thank you. It is, looking back, it's like, dang, you know, I have zigzagged all over the place, and sometimes it all comes back together. And as a writer, because you know this, that all of that experience, you know, you're always going to draw and pull it in to the
Yeah.
content that you create, and it allows you to be more creative because you have more knowledge of different things, and you have the curiosity to
Yeah.
constantly continue to be curious and explore. And that's why it's always great to touch back. You know, I asked that question, you know, was writing, and when you told your story, like, yeah, there are different times in your youth where you wrote, you won some competition, you know, there was something there. And
Right.
so
It was dormant.
yeah, and in
Yeah.
our lives, there are those interests that you had as a kid that maybe you didn't pull the thread on it, you didn't fully pursue it,
Mm-hmm.
and sometimes you fully pursue something only you find out, it's not it, and
Right.
but you pursued it, so then no regrets, no wondering, no questions. And it is like, you know, when you find yourself in a position where, I'm sure while you're at the hospital and going through COVID, again, you're probably running through your head, have I been doing what I want to be? You know, have I been living a good
Yeah.
life? Right?
Absolutely. Totally. Yeah. It's really a matter of perspective. It's not easy. I don't want to make it sound like, oh, I just pivoted very easily. You know, no. We all have, you know, those dark nights, and but and it's okay to have that. It's okay to have that, because it's just a human reaction, emotion. But you have to get back on that horse, you know, or that horse is going to take off without you.
Yeah.
And it's important to stay positive, you know, it's and have that perspective. So, you know, do your morning, you know, you should. Then you have to just pick yourself up and just keep walking, keep going. Yeah.
Keep going. That's what life is about. It's
Yeah.
worth it. It's not to suffer through and be miserable. That is not what,
Right.
you know, it might be more heartbreaking, it might be more demanding, it might be more challenging, but it's more rewarding. Like, I mean, I have failed, I've lost it out all, you know, basically had to ask multiple times, had to ask for money because I was completely broke, and, you know, just
Yeah.
in that state of desperation of not knowing what was going to be next, not being clear on my purpose, because I thought that was it and it didn't pan out. So if that's not it, then what it is, you know, what is it? And, you know, there's definitely been those moments. And it's one of the things that I do right before my birthday is I pull all my journals to read back, to, you know, to reconnect with what it was like, because that perspective is priceless, because the more knowledge, the more experience, your perspective on the things that you've gone through shifts and changes, because as you grow, your understanding of everything, you know, continues to elevate and progress. And, you know, you have to stay engaged with that progression, with what's happening, so you don't lose touch with who you are and still where you're aiming to go, and patting yourself on the back of what you have survived and the risks and the leaps that you have taken. And, you know, for me, it's always like I do it and I detach from the outcome. And, you know, because of my faith, I turn over to God and I detach from the outcome. And then I'll pat myself on the back for having done it. Didn't get the outcome I wanted, but dang it, I did it.
That's right. That's right. And like, it is about the journey. And with the bumps along the way, I mean, just, I don't know. I personally would not probably want to be on a journey with no bumps.
Mm.
I mean, that's just boring, you know? And you have to appreciate all the things that happened in your life, especially the mistakes that you made also, you know, because those are the best teachers, and that's how you learn and that's how you grow. And this is an analogy to writing, where when you're creating characters, the most interesting characters, the characters that people love and the people would want to tune in every week if it's a TV show, are the characters that are probably the most flawed, right? Characters with the most flaws are extremely fascinating, both as a viewer and as a writer. You know, I love, you know, very layered characters and relationships, right? But I mean, how did they get those flaws? You know, how do we get our flaws? You know, it's through challenges. It's through making mistakes, you know, and bouncing back from them and being better people. Yeah. So yeah, it's art imitating life and vice versa.
Yeah, so. We're definitely living in a time where
almost, well, there's drama out there.
It's hard as a writer to compete with reality.
That's okay. All the best stories are out there. So.
Yeah, so awesome. Well, I really appreciate you sharing that journey, and very fitting that you chose to do so again on 9/11, the way that you painted that moment to, you know, because there are definitely people alive right now that weren't alive when, and you know, when 9/11 happened, and to hear like the firsthand account of someone experiencing in the confusion that was around it, the madness, the chaos, and just, yeah, you know, thank you for sharing that. You definitely took us back to that day.
Yeah, well, thank you for having me. Yeah.
So before we play the first time lightning round, how can people get in touch with you?
Yeah, so on social media, you can find my production company, Navy Yard Films. We're based out of Brooklyn, New York. And it's basically Navy Yard Films, at Navy Yard Films, everywhere on social media and Facebook.
Keeping it simple.
Yep.
All right. Okay. So it is time for the first time lightning round. So the way it works is I'm going to ask Dave 10 different first time options. If it's something that he's done before, he's going to say up. So it's similar to if he was on the 365 First Challenge app. Something that he's never done, not interested, we go left. Never done, would like to add to your list, we go right. Yeah, ready?
Yeah, this is like the Tinder of life.
Exactly. Okay, first one, play lacrosse.
Wait, never have. Okay, right. I would play lacrosse.
Right, you play lacrosse. Give it a go.
Sure.
Okay. Ride a scooter.
Up.
Done that.
Yeah.
Remember your first time on a scooter?
Yeah. Like the electric ones, right? Not the old fashioned. Yeah. For sure. Yeah. I don't know. I don't remember where. Like I said, I have a terrible memory. Like I don't remember like places I visited with friends, and they'd be like, "Hey, remember that restaurant, you know, in Barcelona?" I'm like, "No, I don't remember that restaurant in Barcelona." They're like, "What is wrong with you? Drugs are bad." I was like, I'm not even stoned. I don't know.
I will admit that I have some of those same memory gaps about certain things, and it does. I was like, why do I not? It has helped with the first time storytelling, but I have gaps in my stories. I'm like, how?
Yeah.
And then thank God for being able to Google to try and bring that back, or look at pictures and ask people about it. Yeah.
That's why I'm not an actor. I can't remember lines.
You know what? That's my recurring. I don't have a lot of. I don't dream a lot, but it's my one recurring nightmare is to be on stage for a play and not remember my lines.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I have no problems being on stage and speaking. Like I'm not afraid to be on stage, but if I have to remember
Yeah.
I was like, nope.
But you make the most of every situation.
Yeah, that's funny.
Do a dance or something.
Yeah,
just tell a joke. You're like, yeah, thank you, Cleveland.
you have the same memory gaps. Okay, next one. Go on a bar or club or like pub tour, right?
Well, that's a diagonal, right? So, because I've done crawls.
Okay.
So yeah, a friend of mine, Michael Goldberg, he's a director. He organizes these brewery crawls in Brooklyn. So we never knew there were so many breweries in Brooklyn, but evidently there are. People like to drink in Brooklyn.
Oh, very neat. Okay.
Yeah.
Volunteer to help to assess with a natural disaster.
Volunteer to assess.
Yeah.
Definitely right. I haven't done that specifically. Totally, I would do that. Yes.
Okay. Go to a chiropractor.
Okay, right.
Right.
I was leaning left, but it's like, nah, whatever, I'll try.
Yeah, if you needed it, like, I would go. I didn't know if you had gone, and it's one of those things where I really need to, and I have yet to do it, but it's absolutely on my list.
But I've gone to acupuncturists.
Oh, okay.
I can swear by those guys, so they're good.
Oh, what did you go to them for? Like,
I had rotator cuff inflammation, and now I have tennis elbow that I'm getting looked at also. But it helps to go to a qualified, recommended acupuncturist. So don't just go to Sal in his garage or something. Yeah.
How many visits does it take to kind of get the benefits?
It depends. It's different for each person. For my shoulder, that was kind of bad. It probably took a few months. Yeah, along with PT. So.
All right. Yeah, I've not done acupuncture either. It is on my list as well. Okay, build a snowman.
Up. Yeah, that's. I was 4 or 5. I lived in North Carolina, Asheville, North Carolina, when I was a kid, and my parents had owned a restaurant. They worked really hard, and it was winter. We came back. We drove back to the house. And I said to my dad, I want to build a snowman, Dad. Poor guy, he just wants to go in. Probably after a 15-hour shift, he's like, oh, hey, you want a snowman? So he put just a small snowball together and then just a smaller snowball. And just put it there. There's your snowman. He went inside. And I'm standing there looking at my really sad snowman. Okay, sorry.
That's a great story. Have you gotten a chance to make a bigger one since then as a kid?
No, I haven't.
Oh, really?
So that would be right.
That is your one snowman. All right.
Yeah, I live a very full life.
Okay, next one. Play the accordion.
Oh man, totally right.
Totally right. But the accordion, or you just love instruments?
Yeah, I love music. I think what my very first passion probably was guitar, and I really love playing the guitar. I was playing probably 3 hours a day in high school, pretending I was doing homework. I would just play the guitar. But yeah, I love and respect music so much. Yeah, I would totally, any instrument like glockenspiel, the triangle,
any of them, you try it. Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, final one. Get CPR certified.
Totally right. I was thinking about that. I just have to commit to that. I would do that for sure.
Okay, so that's another right. Add it to the list. Okay, well, that concludes the first time lightning round. Final question is, how have you been making the best out of the COVID situation, out of the pandemic? I mean, having had it and, again, I know New York has changed a lot. What has all of that been like, and how have you been making the best of it?
Yeah, like I said, I'm attending MFA school, graduate school now, and I'm super stoked about that. And I want to focus more on my writing. I think I might want to pull back on the producing a bit, just so I can focus on my writing, and there was, a reflective moment last year when I thought, why did I go into filmmaking in the first place? It actually wasn't for producing, it was for writing. I'm like, well, why don't I just focus more on that? And because I've always kind of liked being a generalist. I love learning, a little bit about everything. And, but, now I've decided to just specialize more just on my love of writing. And I want to start a blog as well, probably about writing. So, follow me in Navy Art Films, and you'll hear news about that.
All right. Awesome. Well, I definitely wish you all the best with everything.
Thank you.
I know you're going to make it happen because you're going to keep growing and learning through it. Actually, I'm curious. So I'm not one to sign up for actual college.
Oh, right. Okay.
So, because you said you've been learning a lot. And obviously you were self-educated yourself. You started a production company, so you already had a lot of knowledge. But how has it been different being learning in the school environment and getting that information?
More about the basics. And because I didn't go to film school as an undergrad, or writing as an undergrad, I was pretty much self-taught, right? And now a lot of the books will have different approaches, philosophies to writing, So there's no right way, there's no wrong way. So if I can pick up new approaches and techniques to really perfecting my craft, I can, then that's a win, And our head instructor, Alan Kingsbury, he's been a showrunner on TV, and he taught at Columbia. And I think he may have formed their TV writing program in Columbia, in their MFA program. And he's teaching at Stony Brook now, which is a state school. So, and it's awesome because you're getting Ivy League education at a state school price. Score,
Oh, great. Well, that's really great. Okay. Well, enjoy the rest of your day and your weekend. And again, thank you for coming on.
Thank you so much, Anne. Had so much fun. This is great.